Hey, Jason Kissel again. We are looking at Google Forms today. We are going to build one from scratch, and I'm going to show you some of the extra little things you can do to make it more than just a multiple choice quiz, right? So forms.google.com, form.new, click on the app launcher, the waffle, go to forms, however you want to get there, right? And then the new one is hidden behind me. I'm actually super into just the shortcuts to build new stuff, right? All right, so the first thing I always do when I create a form, because sometimes I forget to do it later, well, I always name it, but I actually always go in and I change the theme. You could add a little image, but don't just keep it the purple form, right? Like at this point, we all know the default's purple, so at least change the color, right? I'm actually a monotone guy myself. I usually keep the font as basic because I feel like when you change it, it just looks funky. But, do whatever you want. If you want the formal font or the playful font, you do you. I'm not going to slow you down, right? And then sometimes I build some custom header. Like if I'm doing I'll show you an example. If I'm doing a form about a specific thing, I'll build a custom header like in drawings or in slides and save it as an image. So something like this, right? Like I do a GoGuardian form. So I built this image that just has, our logo and GoGuardian kind of tiled back and forth because that size, that really wide banner is how that always comes in. So you'll want to do, it's actually like 200 pixels by 800 pixels, I think. But you just want to make a banner like that and save it as an image. Maybe if this video doesn't run on and on, I can put that at the very end. All right, so let's go back to my brand new one. You see, I kept it as purple. Oh no, I didn't. I changed it. Never mind. See, I changed the theme color. And if you upload an image, actually, when you go to your theme color, it'll give you images or colors based on that image. So that's kind of cool, right? You want to put that in first, and then it will give you a theme color, which just kind of affects like the section header bars and all that. Okay, back to a blank one. I'm just going to use green, I guess. I like green. When people ask me, or gray, when people ask me what my favorite color was, I always used to say green. I don't really know why, right? But I guess I'll stick with gray because I said I was a monochrome guy. Okay, so I'm going to make my form about the basics of 3D printing check-in, right? Okay, so maybe I'm teaching a class and we're learning about 3D printing. Really, I just love 3D printing, and I've got a 3D printer that you could rent out from me. So if you have an idea of how to use it in your content classroom, let me know. I would love to collaborate with you on that. But yes, I love 3D printing. I think it is very, very cool and an awesome form of using technology in the real world, right? So I just taught kids the real basics of 3D printing and all the different things they need to know. And now I just kind of want to see where they're at, right? So this form will redirect you to different videos if you answer incorrectly. These are the most important things I need you to know about our printer before moving on. Okay, so I'm really I don't want kids using my 3D printer if they don't know anything about it and they're going to do something harmful, right? So I want them to have a basic working knowledge, because what good is it to use a 3D printer in class and just say, oh, we printed something that I made, and not really understand how you did it, right? So I'm going to start with my first question. What size filament do most 3D printers use? All right, so the plastic that most printers use is called filament. There's lots of different kinds of filament, right? But for most home printers or printers you'd see in a school, they're just plastic printers, right? So I'm going to put the correct answer first. We'll call 1.75 millimeter, 3 millimeter, and then we'll put 5 millimeter, and then we'll put we'll just put an oddball question out there, right? Like 4 inches, right? Which would be crazy if the size is the diameter of the filament, and 1.75 is the common size. Not that you need a lesson on 3D printing. You can add an image in here as your question. You can also add images in as your answer type. I'm not going to really go into that, but it's a nice way to add a little bit of depth to your form, so it's not just words after words after words, right? And I'm doing words after words after words, but it's kind of a nice little break if you could create some images. And again, create them in Google Drawings or create them in Google Slides, and then just save the slide as an image, and then you can use them wherever, right? If you're working from a Chromebook, every time you save something, it goes right to your Google Drive, so it's really easy to find that and get it back. I love that. Okay, I'm going to make sure it's required. I want it to be multiple choice. I don't want it to be checkboxes. I want to be able to pick more than one. I don't want it to be a drop down. Lots of different options here. We're not going to go through all of them, but multiple choice. And then the key right here is go to section based on answer. So what I want is if they get it wrong, I want them to have to watch a video about filament size, right? And if they get it right, then I'm good and they can move on with life, right? So I'm going to go to a section based on answer. Well, right now I don't really have any sections, right? So there are really no options here except for continue to the next section. So I'm going to need to go in. I'm going to need to build some sections, right? So I'm going to build a section per question. All right, so I'm just going to start building some sections here. All right, that'll get me started. So section 1 of 5 is just the first question, right? It tells them what they're doing and it gives them the option. Now, section number 2, I'm going to make it if they got it correct. So I'm just going to put it on to the next one, which is the type of filament. Question number 2. Okay. Section number 3 is going to be the reteaching opportunity, the video that I want them to watch, and then I want them to go back and answer the question again. All right, so watch this video. Okay, so I'm going to say watch the details of this video and then try question number 1 again. Okay, perfect. So right now, all I'm doing is building sections, so there's not any questions behind those, but I can at least get them into the right path. So I'm going to go in here. Remember, this is the correct answer, so I'm going to have them go to question 2. But if they get it wrong, I'm going to have them go to question 3. All right, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay, so I can build question 2 here, but I'm actually going to show you this video part. So I'm going to add a question in. I'm going to make it required. I'm going to make it multiple choice, and I'm going to add a video. Okay, and I've actually the helpful part about this is to have all the video links like either on a doc or something pulled up. So I've got all my videos pulled up on a different tab. So let me just grab one here. All right, and I'm going to have to move myself. All right, filament. Oh, that's the wrong one. I don't want filament types. I want this one. Okay, so I just did that wrong, but that's okay. No worries. I'm just going to get rid of it, and I'm going to do that again. All right, so I'm going to add the video. Here's the URL I want. Okay, and I would probably have, if you notice here, they have to come from YouTube on these videos. So if you have Google Drive links, you'll just have to add in the link and they'll click on it. It will open in a new tab. That would still work, right? Another alternative to that is they could go to an Edpuzzle. So if they got it wrong and you wanted to make sure they watch the video, that's just more to manage, right? Like for me, I don't want to have to manage now looking at Edpuzzle for the kids that got it wrong. That just seems like a lot of steps for me as a teacher, right? So instead, I'm just going to give them the video from YouTube. I can also upload my videos to YouTube, and I can make them unlisted so nobody else can see them if I'm really worried about that. I don't want to make them public to the world. If I make them unlisted, and then I could still share that URL, right? I could still get that video just by sharing the URL. Okay. So put that in the middle here. I'm going to say, watch this video about filament size. All right, and then I have this nice drag option, so I'm going to put that above my question, and then I'm going to add my question in here. Are you ready to try question number 1 again? Okay, and I'm just going to put yes and no. gave me suggestions there, really easy. And I'm going to actually do some more of this. Go to section based on answer. Okay, so if they get it, if they say yes, I'm going to take them back to question 1. If they say no, I'm actually going to take them right back into this section, and they're just going to be in an infinite loop if they just hit no, because that's the wrong answer. All right, so that's kind of like the idea. I don't think I'm going to build out every question, right? But I would just keep doing that until I got to the end of the form. Let me preview that so you can kind of see what it looks like. All right, so let's say I get this wrong. All right, and then I go next. So it's going to take me to the video, right? Let's say I'm not ready to try question number 1 again. You notice it takes me right back to the same page until I change that to yes. It'll take me here. If I answer this correctly, you notice now it gets me to question 2, right? I'm aware that students could just click through every one, right, and get it so they could get through. I'm aware of that, right? But the idea behind it is still a wholehearted and a holistic idea of reteaching. Now, in practice, does it work perfectly? Of course not. Of course not, right? But I still love it as a great idea to show students some reteaching, some tutorials if they're struggling with some things, right? So there you go. There's the basics of 3D printing by using this little 3 dots here and go to section based on answer. Okay, the last thing I want to share with you, so I'm just going to go into this section. I'm just going to add a question here. You notice you can put in a description. You can move your sections around. So if I didn't want this to actually be section 4, I can move it up or down. I can get rid of it by merging it, right? So there's a lot of ways you can rearrange all of this. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you get the hang of it. When you add in the media, I think you probably noticed when I added in the media that it added in as its own little box, right? It's not part of the question. And then the other little one that I think some people just never know, like if they use forms in the past or really never used them, you can import questions from other Google Forms. So if you have a question that you always use on a Google Form, has a lot of options or something, like an example out of my world is the list of buildings in Southwestern City Schools. Like when I make a form, I always want to know where people are answering from to help kind of dial in the data. Is a long list to type in. That import questions thing is an absolute game changer for me. I actually have a form of common questions, and I just go import questions. I go to my common questions form, and boom, done. Right. So that's really helpful too. But the one other thing I wanted to show you is, let's say I'm trying to think of a random question here. I should have thought of this ahead of time. Give your best guess at how many jelly beans are in this picture. Okay, so let's say I added a picture in, I had a jar of jelly beans, and I'm trying to just do some estimation here, right? Maybe not the best example, but it will get my point across. Okay, and now it's a short answer question, and you notice when there's some AI here that is reading my question and trying to decide what answer type. It doesn't get it right all the time, but it gets it right a lot more and it gets it wrong, right? So if I have a short answer question, you notice when I click these 3 dots, there isn't go to section based on answer because there's not one answer that anybody can have, right? It's not up to 4 answers. It's unlimited. So that go to section based on answer is really multiple choice. So now we're looking at response validation. So response validation works like this. You give it parameters, and if the kid doesn't answer with those types of parameters, then they can't answer, right? So I want to make sure that they answer with a number. I want to make sure it's between, and I'm going to say it's between, maybe I say it's between 50 and 500. Maybe based on the picture, right? I'm like, well, a kid shouldn't guess 10 because visibly I can see like 40 or 50 of them. And they shouldn't be guessing like 10,000 because that is just the number so far. So I would say like try to guess a little bit closer. Okay, so, maybe they're just putting an oddball number out there, but now that will give them, if they try to put something in other than a number or something wrong, it will give them that error. So let's see what that looks like. All right. So I'm going to have to click through my my other questions right. So let me make sure I get that right here. Nothing. Okay, and you notice it still took me to this video. This question number 2, I would route that around that video, so people who answered it correctly would never actually see this section right here. Right. All right, but since I'm just clicking through here, you're going to see it. Oh no, I'm going to get stuck in here forever. Hold on one second. That's my fault. All right, so right here, let's do this. Let's put a question and move on to the next section. Yes. Okay, and then I'm actually going to put this question in, so I go to section 4. Perfect. All right, so now you kind of get to see that as well. All right, so I'm going through my questions here. I'm getting them right. So now you'll notice this will jump over that video, right? Okay, and now give your best guess. So like if I say 5, see it gives me an error. If I put a word in, it gives me an error, right? And it'll always give me the same error. If I put in a huge number, it gives me an error, right? But if I put in a number within the range, oh, I thought my range was in there. I thought it was between 50 and 500. I'm sorry. So let's say 100. It'll let me go through, right? So that's a nice little way where kids can't put off the wall answers. You know, you can kind of frame them in using that response validation, right? Where's that at? Right there. Okay. And then you've got a couple other options here. You can do it based on the text. You can do it on the length. So length can be helpful if you're trying to do like a 5-digit number or a specific word that has a certain number of characters. And then regular expression's kind of nice. Just know if it contains whatever pattern you're trying to show. So like if you wanted it to contain part of a word or something, that is case sensitive. So just be careful with that. It might be frustrating more than not if you make it, case sensitive. Case sensitive just means that like an uppercase or lowercase matters, right? So if you capitalize the letter and your pattern isn't capitalized, it won't match them. So just be careful there. And then the last type of question I want to show you that you can kind of, this was brand new to me last year. I told somebody you couldn't do it, and then you could. So I'm going to say like select at most 3 of these options below. Whoops, I forgot the word options. All right. So we're just going to say option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, option 5, option 6. All right. So and I only want people to pick 3. So I need it to be checkboxes, right? But right now, if I just publish this question, they could check as many as they want, right? But luckily, if you click on these 3 dots again, there's going to be response validation. And it's going to say select at least, and it's going to tell you how many, or at most, or exactly, right? So if I want them to choose exactly 2 candidates for this, or choose the correct 2 answers for this, that's how I would do that question. In this one, I said at most 3, so I'm going to just put at most 3, and then I'm going to put you can only choose a maximum of 3 answers. Revise and resubmit. Something like that. I don't know, Okay, and then now that arrow will come up. I'm not going to click through my slide or my questions again to show you that, but that will come up. So a couple different ways to use Google Forms, and maybe a little bit more creative than just some multiple choice. And even if you do just use multiple choice, throw in some sections in that kind of gather them together, gather the questions together can help kids. If you do want to use sections like that, let me show you this real quick. So in that settings gear up at the top there, there's a lot of different settings you can require. Of course, I would keep all of these, right? If you might not need response receipts, right? But just so the kid knows they got it, that it was submitted, that's kind of nice. Limit to 1 response. That just means they can't go in and edit after the end. A lot of people probably like that. Here's the one I was talking about in regard to section. If you put the progress bar at the bottom, and it's all one big page, then the progress bar doesn't mean anything. But it goes based on sections, right? So if each section has 2 or 3 questions in it and you have 5 sections, the kid will see a progress bar about how far they are through the assignment as they go through the sections. So that could be really helpful. And it also clicks them through a new screen. So they're not just scrolling down this massive list of questions, right? It's a little bit easier for the kid to navigate, I think, right? Shuffle question order. Well, that would be horrible based on what I just showed you, because it's all going to different sections based on the answer, right? So you want to make sure it all stays exactly the way it is. And then I don't want them to be able to submit another response. You can give them a cute little message, say like, great job, glad you did it, right? And then the last thing is quizzes. If you want it to automatically grade for you, you can do that. Lock mode works really well for school-issued Chromebooks, but I think it's pretty tough. I would actually rather use something like GoGuardian to just kind of manage that than the lock mode. I haven't been overly impressed with lock mode. I see more issues than solutions, honestly. And then you can give them their grade. Sometimes you have to review questions by hand, so you might want to do later and then show them what they have. So if I do turn on the quiz option, you don't have to think of it as a quiz, but just as a graded assignment, right? So let's say I wanted to give this question some points and I wasn't doing this, right? Right here, you see now this wasn't there before, and now there's an answer key. I throw this in. I can actually give them feedback here. So I could just put the link to Edpuzzle or the link to if they got it wrong. Here's where you can learn more, and I can assign the point value to that, right? And I hit done. Now there's an answer key in for that question, and I can go down and I can do it for all my questions, right? So just a little bit more on that. The very last thing, I could probably talk more. I could talk about all the add-ons that you might want, and I could, make sure that I get it named. But I'm just going to tell you, when you send it, right, this is different than all other Google apps where it doesn't say share, it says send, right? And so that can be really confusing to people. So all I ever do to send it is I go send, I click the link, and I click copy, and I put that where I need it to be, right? And automatically that puts them onto this view right away, right? That's where the link takes them. You can see a progress bar right here, page 1 of 6. So that's what I was talking about with that progress bar. It's nice to have, but it's only nice to have if each page has about the same amount of questions. Otherwise, it's a little bit misleading, right? If my first 4 pages have 2 questions each, and then my 5th page has 100 questions, then the progress bar isn't doing me too much. All right, so the send button, go with the link. You can even shorten that if you're just going to post a link directly and not, hyperlink it into something, into a doc or a slide or something, right? So that's nice. Copy it to the clipboard, paste it wherever you need it to go. If you wanted somebody else to edit it with you, if you're working with your team and you're like, well, I want them to be able to collaborate on it with me, just know all your responses will go into the same bucket, right? So when you get your responses, they'll all be right here. I guess you could sort them by the teacher, like they could have to answer a question to put their teacher in. But I find it to be more useful that somebody creates the form and then everybody else makes a copy so they get their own responses and they're not actually all sharing responses. But if you want to collaborate on something, it's behind the 3 dots. It's not actually under the share menu. And then right here, add collaborators, right? So there you are. I'm going to stop. I feel like that's plenty of Google Form knowledge. If you have questions, please reach out to me and let me know. If I said something wrong, please correct me. I'm more than willing to admit that I don't know everything. And if you want me to kind of look over a form or test it for you before you give it out to a kid, I'd love to see what you come up with. So best of luck to you, and let me know if I can help and how I can help in the future.